Welcome to Spill the Tea, a podcast by Penang Institute, where we dive into compelling stories, groundbreaking ideas, and visionary leaders shaping the future. I'm your host, Bami Ting. Today, we're honored to have Soo Hoo Khoon Yean, the managing partner of PwC Malaysia, with us. PwC, short for PricewaterhouseCoopers, is a global professional services network renowned for its expertise in audit, tax, and advisory services. With a presence in over 150 countries, PwC has been instrumental in helping businesses, governments, and communities thrive through innovative solutions and forward-thinking strategies. Soo Hoo brings over 31 years of experience to the table, having worked extensively with financial institutions across Malaysia and the region. Beyond leading PwC Malaysia, he serves as the Territory Senior Partner for PwC Malaysia Vietnam and chairs PwC's Southeast Asia Consulting Practice. His career has seen him play pivotal roles in major projects, including mergers and acquisitions, internal investigations, and implementing international financial reporting standards. In today's episode, we'll explore Soo Hoo's perspectives on how Penang can continue to thrive economically and socially. As someone deeply rooted in Penang and with a stellar career at PwC, he offers a unique lens on balancing global best practices with local opportunities. We'll also delve into his vision for the Penang Creative Free Zone initiative and how innovation can drive sustainable growth for the state. Welcome to the show, Soo Hoo.
Thank you, Mei Ting.
Yeah, it's such an honor to have you here. So to warm up, let's first have a round of fireside. I know you grew up in Penang. So what would be the one hawker food that you can't live without?
Char Kway Teow.
Okay. That one was really a quick answer.
I just had one.
Okay, excellent. Okay, next question. Do you have a principle in life that you hold on to?
Well, to me, I think is if I have one word, I think you need to have passion in everything you do. So passion will be one very important aspect in life.
Yeah, so everything. And I understand that apart from work, you are also into sports. So what sort of workouts do you do?
So I have gym at home, so I do every day before I go to work at 6:30.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, I think it's mainly for health reason. But of course, in school, I used to play sports as well.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much for those little details about yourself. So let's dive into the more serious stuff. Can you share with us a bit about your journey at PwC and how your experiences really have shaped your perspective on Penang's growth and potential?
Right. Thank you, Mei Ting, for an interesting opening question. I think one of the beauty of working in PwC for the last 30 years is about the variety of work that I do, and more importantly, the variety of people and places that I've been and met. So in my view, if I were to look at the places I've been and the people that I've met and the work I do, one thing I realize is that Penang has a lot of potential. Right?
Okay.
It's being a Penangite myself, who have gone all over the world, and then every time you come back, you actually see a different aspect of Penang, which I see a lot of potential on. So, for example, during my whole career, we look at population pivoted towards urbanization. We look at economic growth. However, I have witnessed massive economic growth, but at the same time, massive economic growth bring along social, intellectual, and also wealth gap.
Okay.
And because of these weaknesses or challenges that you see arising from the past 20 years, I do see Penang having a chance to realize the potential and be in a position to bridge the gap if we have the right policies in place.
Okay, so that means Penang being no doubt a small state, but we can leave a huge impact, and
That's right.
we always punch above our weight.
That's right.
So you were also saying slightly earlier that we are just the right size. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So as someone originally from Penang, and who, you built a significant part of your career in PwC. How do you see the interplay between Penang's local roots and its global aspirations?
So maybe I elaborate further on the answers I gave earlier, which is quite close to what this question is that I always see Penang having a sweet spot. Sweet spot in the sense that if you look at today Penang, it has maintained a lot of cultural heritage. The multiracialism of Malaysia. If you look at the area that we zone out for as a heritage area, you have a lot of old buildings. And in addition to that, let's not forget our food has been very, very popular around the world. So this also means that from the local perspective, we have something to offer that is unique and that we can actually offer to the world.
Yeah.
Right? And at the same time, if you were to look at the level of education we have and the success of a free trade zone that opens the Penang to global map, this also means that we are not just a city that has history and culture, but we are also part of modernization and future globalization. So in that sense, I always see that we have the blend of both worlds. Then the question now is that what should be the next phase? This also means that we have the foundation to move to the next phase as well.
Yeah, Penang, I must say, has always had a huge draw, whether it's historically or in the present moment, where we are a real melting pot, actually, and that I mean, we are also strategically positioned, of course, geographically, but also, as you mentioned just now, intellectually, we were one of the main educational hubs in the region, even from way before during colonial times. And now, no doubt the capital of Malaysia is in KL, but we can also see a lot of even international schools here, and that shows something. I'm not discounting public schools, of course, because Penang's public schools have also been very well known for a long time.
Indeed.
Yeah. But the point that now we also have a mushrooming of international schools, it actually shows that there are more and more talents from around the globe who are actually interested in being in Penang, working and living here.
So I think you're very spot on. In fact, I may just add that if my observation on how urbanization has evolved, there are, in the past 2 decades, there are so much attraction of or movement of talent to places like Singapore and KL, essentially what I deem as fully international cities. But over the last 5 years, I also have seen a slight reverse trend, not necessarily people going back to the rural area, but there are people, or I would say significant number of people beginning to start to wonder is international cities like KL is the place to go. While there are many that not necessarily like a total rural area, but they will not want a place like Penang, for example, an island that has a heritage area, an island that has modern factories. But at the same time, if you go back to Balik Pulau, it's totally rural. Yeah. You can actually feel the rural space. And because of that, you find that you have a lot of people who are interested in a place like this where you can get everything in one place.
Yeah, and I think our size is so ideal that we can have, as you mentioned just now, both a more laid back place, but also very technologically savvy place as well. We have, of course, in general, like you said, the food and just the beauty of Penang, having the mix of both the fast paced and the laid back.
Yes.
Yeah. So in that case, also how can Penang maintain its competitive edge, especially in the face of rapid technological advancement and shifting global economic dynamics?
Yeah. So maybe in my view, let's start with what I see as foundational success in the context of Penang. To me, Penang have a lot of ingredients that can be deemed as fairly successful. Number one, I think, as you mentioned, we have a fairly strong education infrastructure. This also means that we have the ability to provide to talent for any investment and companies that want to continue to invest into places like Penang. Number two, we have a strong government policies in place, such as the free trade zone. And in my view, a free trade zone, which is very much manufacturing and product focused kind of initiative. The question is that what else can we do in expanding the concept of free trade zone to further expand the potential of Penang? So that is the second ingredient. But the third most important ingredient, in my view, that there are many places in Malaysia may not necessarily be focusing on, essentially will be in the culture and the heritage space. Perhaps Malacca has one, but it is quite different sometimes, more often than not, from that of what you see in Penang. Because when you look at Penang culture and heritage, it's not about history, it's not about just the people, but it's also the food and the community at large. So in my mind, I think that is also an important element which we can consider in expanding. But more importantly is that we must be able to connect the dots among all the strengths that we have in Penang, so that we can bring Penang to perhaps the next 50 years of success.
Okay, and tapping on that, I see that you'll be going into this idea that you have been talking to Penang Institute and more people about, which is the Penang Creative Free Zone initiative. So could you elaborate on this vision behind this concept, and what are its core objectives really, and how does it aim to position Penang in the creative economy?
Yeah, so in my experience in looking after and advise various state governments around the country, many have spoken about economic zones. Many have spoken about special zone for manufacturing and various other, like for example, in Singapore and Johor is essentially a very, very good, SDZ is a very, very good example and has a lot of potential for Johor context. Many have spoken about production facility, a research facility, and probably commercial activities, but none actually have spoke about the creativity hub. And to me, when I look at the creativity hub, this is a topic or a subject matter that which Penang can play a role, not just for the state, but also for the national level. Because in any country or nation building, you need to promote arts and culture to further promote the integration of society. And in my mind, Penang can play that role. So that is the one, what I call passion I have in terms of how I see this Penang can play a role, not just for the state, but it's also for Malaysia as a whole. Now, the question now is that, okay, how do we do this well? Or what are
what sort of steps would you
what kind
recommend?
Of steps, right?
Yeah.
So if you were to look at some of the steps that we have, like I mentioned earlier, we already have the free trade zone concept. What we can now do is to promote and expand that free trade zone concept to services in the context of for culture and heritage. We can provide incentives. We can provide work with the federal government to provide easier visa access for people who are interested to, for example, build a business in the area of arts and culture in Penang. Government can, just like free trade zone, we put all the semiconductor business in factories in one zone. We can also create a zone wherever we can choose within the island or even in the mainland, an area that people, architects, digital artists, furniture designers, and playwrights, filmmakers, all in one area, so that they can create an ecosystem for them. We create an area which people can thrive together.
Wow, this is a really interesting concept. I mean, just talking about it makes me immediately the image of it, has really popped up in my head to envision what sort of ecosystem that would, that would come out of this, if it takes off. So in this sense, that means you see a lot of public-private partnerships.
That's
Is that
right.
right? Yeah.
Yes. So my idea of the Creative Hub, which I have been advocating for Penang, is not about just getting government funds or government incentive to fund all these programs. I think the trick is to see how the financial sector can play a role. Being a financial service specialist myself, today's financial sector or how people, how market fund organizations and business is not restricted to public funds or listed for get into Bursa to list. You have crowdfunding, you have private equity who can fund specific projects within the free trade zone area that we come about. Certainly, I think there are many ways to do it. So for me, the public-private partnership is essential. The other aspect of public-private partnership is always in the space of education. There are, again, what I've seen is that there are many organizations who are willing to train young talents for specific area of expertise. So you can find multinationals. I have seen personally myself where multinationals spend money in terms of educating people, say in the space, or sponsor people in the space of digital art in return for employment. Even PwC does that. We will fund, we are in the midst of, for example, fund a digital faculty in universities so that we can get the right people with the right exposure and experience and we co-design curriculum to ensure that they are able to become technology people that is specialized, for example, in the area of AI that is very specific to the industry. So things like this will actually enhance the employability of the talent coming out from the universities, but at the same time, you don't use public funds. You get the private organization to provide the effort, resources, and money to bring the best out of our talent that we already have.
Yeah, and this certainly sounds like a win-win situation.
It is, yeah.
And I must say that even for Penang, I do notice if there is one thing that we can be really proud of is how people would actually come together. And when I say people, it's not just individuals, it could also be corporations to sort of pull efforts together when they have a same goal. And whether it is private funding a certain event or a certain idea or project, or like through scholarships that you mentioned just now. And this is something, for example, and because this thought came up to me when there's this time when the art scene in Penang was sort of sliding down, but then a lot of art practitioners they came in with a lot of private funding to make sure that things are kept afloat.
Right.
Yeah, and when you said just now about like corporations giving out scholarships, even I think this is a really good idea because it's a win for, let's say, the students or the younger generation to get quality education, and at the same time for the corporations who are giving out these scholarships to be able to get talent, which can be so difficult to come by also nowadays because we are so worried about the brain drain phenomena. And so when there are initiatives like this, it sort of makes it easier or gives it a better foundation or opportunity to have more people to employ, yes, which suits the roles that are needed.
So Mei Ting, you just think about this, right? I for a firm like PwC, we employ about close to 4,000 people, college graduates. I can safely say, while there are many people who are attracted to places like Singapore, but there are so many talent are prepared to stay in Malaysia if they have a future.
Yes.
If they have a future, they are prepared to earn. Many people are realistic in the sense that they are not expected to earn as much as in Singapore. But let's not forget that we have a decent cost of living.
Yes.
So if we are able to punch above our weight by about 10 to 15% in terms of our income above the market level, I think there are many more people will stay.
Yeah.
right? And if we can create a creativity hub where you allow people, like-minded people coming together and allow skill to flourish within these industries, many young people will consider Penang as an option. And the more people that they see Penang as a place to build their career, then you really can build a community and make a differentiated future for Penang.
Yeah, and Penang certainly has that stickiness factor.
That's
also.
right. We already have that stickiness. All we need is to move the extra mile.
Yeah.
I think the extra mile will make a tremendous impact.
Yeah. And talking about this, right, as we move on forward, like as industries in Penang grow, and then there will also be concerns about sustainability. So how can businesses balance economic growth, which we foresee, with environmental stewardship, for example, in the context of Penang?
Yeah. So I always like to use concept the firm always have, right? The concept for a firm like ours is that while we are a profit-making organization, but you must be an organization with a purpose. Likewise, a state like Penang must have a purpose. It's not about just flourishing with a lot of from the economic sense, but you need to flourish from the social sense. And in order to flourish from the social sense, Penang must be aligned to what our younger generations are looking for. Sustainability is one. Diversity and inclusion is also another one. Right. So in my mind, the area of sustainability is essential because we talk about factories, we talk about economic growth, but this must be done from a sustainable perspective. This all cannot be done without having to look at spending sufficient effort and money to ensure that our shores remain clean, our water remain not polluted, and we should strive to reduce the carbon emission within a city because many young people are less attractive now increasingly to international megacities is because of pollution. Yeah, pollution, noise, noise, and also the struggle of raising a family.
Yeah, high cost of
Yes,
living.
high cost of living. You need to build parks. You need to build facilities for young families, young children, and these are some of the essentials if you want to make Penang a successful creativity hub.
So basically, a place like Penang has to be livable, where people can raise families and live comfortably with meaning in life.
So it's interesting, right? Maybe you spoke about that. It's just like Sydney and Melbourne, right? Why Melbourne is considered the most livable city?
Oh, because there's a very good work-life balance.
Yeah, most people that like Melbourne may not. Other people that may not like to live in Sydney.
Okay.
So what we can do is that I live in KL for the last 20 over years. KL is a nice place, but as a country, we must have alternative to KL. Because one of the essential aspects of nation building is to ensure that intellectual ability must be spread more widespread across the country rather than just all concentrated in KL. Yeah. That's not healthy for nation building.
Okay, so in that case, we need to have a closer gap. Try to close the gap if possible.
Yes, and provide alternative to people
on
urban living because urban living have different types of urban living. Penang can offer a differentiated urban living.
Yeah, and I think that must be like the beauty of Penang, really.
Spot on.
Yeah. So looking ahead then, I know we have more or less touched upon this, but what would be your hopes and aspirations for Penang really over the next decade?
Okay, I'm selfish. I want to retire in Penang.
Okay.
So I think my aspiration is maybe the term Malaysia's most livable city will be an aspiration for Penang.
Yeah, and I think we can achieve that
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Just keep the tradition of char kway teow
Alive.
Yes.
Yeah. So to close this off, Soo Hoo, is there a message or call to action that you'd like to share with Penang's residents, businesses, and policymakers?
I think I've seen Penang. I mean, being a Penang person myself, we are proud that we have what we have, and we must continue to be proud about that. But the challenge is for us is how do we navigate into the future, and we must embrace some of the changes. Digitization, sustainability are new concept that is going to be brought in place. I think we need every single person, from businesses to person on the street to government officials and entrepreneurs as a whole, having the ability to take the bold step to embrace the new global trends, because it is important. It is an essential ingredient for Penang to navigate into future success.
Yep. Thank you very much, Soo Hoo,
Most
for
welcome.
all that wisdom and, of course, very forward-thinking vision as well. So I've been speaking to Soo Hoo Khoon Yean, Managing Partner of PwC Malaysia. This is Spill the Tea, a podcast by Penang Institute.